Before sowing any seeds or mixing nutrients, the very first thing you need to check is your water quality. In hydroponics, nutrients don't replace what's already in the water. They're added on top of it. That's why starting water quality matters more than most beginners realize. Before using your water, let it sit in a shaded area for 12 to 24 hours. This allows any presence of chlorine to dissipate and helps stabilize the water. Next, test your water using a ppm meter. Here's a recall of a simple guide you can follow. If your water is 0 to 150 ppm, that's ideal. 150 to 350 ppm is still acceptable, but you'll need to slightly reduce your nutrients. Anything above 350 ppm is not recommended without dilution. In my case, our faucet water measures over 900 ppm. Because of that, I don't use it for hydroponics. Instead, I rely on 20-liter water gallons from a refilling station. They provide a much cleaner and more stable base for nutrient mixing. But as I said earlier, always check the ppm of your water, regardless if it's from a refilling station, just to be sure there are no fluctuations in the water quality. And this one decision alone prevented many problems later on. Getting this step right makes everything else easier. Now that we've checked our water quality, the next step is preparing the growing medium. In Kratky Hydroponics, the growing medium's role is simple but critical. It supports the seedling and keeps consistent moisture around the roots during early growth. There are multiple types of medium that we can use in hydroponics, but for growing lettuces in Kratky's setup, my preferred growing medium is coco peat. It's affordable, easy to find in the Philippines, and gentle on young plants, especially when correctly prepared. Before using coco peat, I always sift it first to remove large fibers. This helps create a finer, more even texture that supports delicate roots. Next, I sterilize the coco peat by boiling water for about 30 minutes. This step is important because it reduces the risk of fungus, insects, or algae developing later in the system. Clean, fine coco peat gives seedlings a soft and stable base, while also helping maintain consistent moisture during the early stages of growth. After sterilizing, squeeze out the excess water. Then, soak the coco peat in a solution made from 10 liters of water mixed with 10 grams of calcium nitrate and let it sit for 3 to 4 days. Always ensure that you only add 1 gram of calcium nitrate for every liters of water. This step enriches the medium with enough calcium and nitrogen, which improves germination rates without harming the seedlings and supports stronger root and leaf development during the first days of growth. Sterilized coco peat can be used and placed directly into slitted cups or seedling trays for sowing. But for better and more consistent germination, I highly recommend soaking the medium first in calcium nitrate. Taking a little extra time here gives your seedlings the strongest possible start. Now let's prepare the container for your Kratky setup. You can use any opaque container as long as it blocks sunlight. Blocking light is important because it prevents algae from growing inside the nutrient solution. I personally prefer pre-holed styro boxes. They remove the hassle of cutting holes and help insulate the nutrient solution from heat, which is especially important in our climate. If you're using spare containers, make sure you follow these basic dimensions for optimal lettuce growth. The ideal depth for lettuce is 6 to 8 inches. Wider containers provide more stable growth, and spacing between holes should be around 4 to 5 inches apart. Proper spacing gives lettuce enough room to expand. When plants are too close, they compete for light, airflow, and nutrients, which can lead to smaller growth and a higher risk of fungal issues. To further prevent algae, I line the inside of my containers with black plastic. This blocks any remaining light from reaching the nutrient solution and also protects the container from long-term chemical exposure. I use this method because it's proven and reliable. It's a practice I adopted from techniques shared in seminars I've attended. Once your container is prepared properly, you're ready for the most exciting part, sowing the seeds and starting your seedlings the right way.
And that's it for part 1, your complete setup checklist before we start Kratky. In part 2, we go hands-on. I'll show you how to sow the seeds, transplant your seedlings, mix the right nutrient solution, and how to manage your water level as it naturally drops over time, all the way to harvest day. Want to see that? Subscribe and hit the bell because it's dropping soon. Got questions? Drop them in the comments. See you in part 2. And that's it for part 1, your complete setup checklist before we start Kratky. In part 2, we go hands-on. I'll show you how to sow the seeds, transplant your seedlings, mix the right nutrient solution, and how to manage your water level as it naturally drops over time, all the way to harvest day. Want to see that? Subscribe and hit the bell because it's dropping soon. Got questions? Drop them in the comments. See you in part 2.